Honorable Speaker, I'm rising once again under Standing Order 47.3b. Yes, just keep it for me. Honorable Speaker, I just want to seek your indulgence.
When you say you are rising again, did you rise before?
I had risen some time last week on the same standing order, but for today, allow me to just seek your indulgence for me to raise certain issues.
Standing order number?
47.3b, read together with the celebrated ruling of Speaker J.B. Muturi.
Let me get you right. You rose on this same issue within this same debate?
No. I'm rising.
What do you mean by rising again?
Maybe I withdraw the remark, I withdraw the term again. And I simply say I'm rising under Standing Order 47.3b. Which is actually self-explanatory. I don't want to belabor. But I want to... Can we have some order here, Honorable Speaker? Honorable Speaker, the Chairman, Budget Committee and Agriculture Committee, Chair, and the Honorable Member for Nyan are having a baraza here.
Honorable Ndinde and Okello.
They're actually hugging, Honorable Speaker, across the aisle. Honorable Speaker, the Standing Order 47.3b is quite clear. It's quite unambiguous. And if the Speaker is of the opinion that any proposed motion, and the motion here refers to both motions and bills, Honorable Speaker.
I know so.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
At B is contrary to the Constitution or an act of Parliament, without expressly proposing appropriate amendment to the Constitution or the Act of Parliament. Then you go further. The Speaker may direct that either the motion is inadmissible or that notice of it cannot be given without such alteration as the Speaker may approve, or that the motion be referred to the relevant committee of the Assembly, pursuant to Article 114(2) of the Constitution. But I want to take you back, Honorable Speaker, to take you to the now celebrated ruling by your predecessor, the Right Honorable J.B. Muturi. Honorable Speaker, the Honorable J.B. Muturi, on 21st December 2021, in a ruling on the constitutionality of the Proceeds of Crime and Anti-Money Laundering Amendment Bill, had this to say, very, very briefly. Had this to say, I can see the clerk is consulting with you. Okay. The Honorable Muturi, in his ruling on this particular day, was simply saying that before I guide the House on the pertinent questions for determination, it is worth noting that Articles 3 and 10 of the Constitution oblige the Chair to respect, uphold, and defend the Constitution. As you are aware, all business that comes before the House is approved by the Speaker, and among other considerations, the Speaker applies his mind as to the constitutionality or otherwise of such business as contemplated under Standing Order 47.3. Let me also hasten to add that notwithstanding the approval of any business by the Chair here implies the Speaker, under the standing orders, it has now become an established parliamentary practice of this House that a question of the constitutionality or otherwise of any matter under consideration by the House may be raised at any stage of its consideration. Indeed, my predecessors and I have been invited on several occasions to guide the House on issues of constitutionality of various matters before the House. Honorable Speaker, that ruling, read together with the Standing Order 47.3b, is what I'm relying on to plead with you to allow me to raise these constitutional issues concerning the motion under consideration. That is the National Government Administration Laws Amendment Bill 2023. And I will proceed, Honorable Speaker, to say as follows, and very, very briefly so, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, Article 3 and Article 10 are clear. I don't want to really read them. Members are now conversant with those two articles provide for. But I've got issues, two issues in this bill. I'm aware the relevant committee, the Committee of Justice and Legal Affairs, has dealt with some of the issues. But there are two issues in this bill that I wouldn't want this House to proceed with and vote on, while we know that we'll be acting in vain, Honorable Speaker. We'll be acting in vain. And this House cannot afford to act in vain, Honorable Speaker. The two issues are to do with, first, the establishment of the office of the head of public service. Two is the establishment of the office of what? Oh, called what is it? CSS are called what? The Chief Administrative Secretaries. Those two offices, as contemplated in the bill, are outrightly unconstitutional. And therefore, this House cannot proceed, should not really proceed to process this bill in the manner it is currently crafted. And I would really be inviting you to make a ruling before we can proceed with this motion. But let me say this. First, on the issue of the head of public service, Honorable Speaker. The bill is attempting to establish the office of the head of public service, Honorable Speaker, outside the Constitution. When you read the Constitution at Article 154, Article 154 of the Constitution establishes the office of the Secretary to the Cabinet with very clear functions and powers, Honorable Speaker. And I won't read them because they are clear. Members can read it for themselves. Article 154. As a matter of fact, if you allow me, 154, because I want to be mindful of time. 154, there is established the office of the Secretary to the Cabinet, which is an office in the public service. It goes on and on to enumerate the functions of this office as one, being in charge of the cabinet office, two, being responsible for arranging the business and keeping the minutes of the cabinet, and three, conveying the decisions of the cabinet to the appropriate persons or authorities, four, to have other functions as directed by the cabinet. Honorable Speaker, if you go to the bill, what the bill is assigning this office is laughable. And I'll be asking Honorable Mbui to assist me for the time being.
Let me listen to him first.
Which page is that? This bill, Honorable Speaker, is attempting to assign the proposed head of the public office to be the chief of staff of the president, to be the administrative head of the executive office of the president, and previously to be the custodian of the seal, which I'm thinking now the committee has removed, okay? And so on and so forth, and to perform any such other functions as may be assigned by the president. Honorable Speaker, there is nothing in these functions as proposed in the bill that are not being performed by the Secretary to the Cabinet, which is a constitutional office established under Article 154 of the Constitution. So in other words, this House is being invited to create some kind of mongorel, to create some kind of office that will superintend over a constitutional office. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Speaker, we are being invited in broad daylight to establish an office through an act of parliament, to lord over a constitutional office under Article 154 of the Constitution, Honorable Speaker. That to me is outrightly unconstitutional. There is no other way you can keep it, Honorable Speaker. If you really want to establish such an office with distinct functions, then there is no shortcut. Just go to the Constitution and amend it. Amend the Constitution and remove powers from the cabinet, from the Secretary to the Cabinet, and assign them to the office of the head of public service. But more importantly, Honorable Speaker, the head of public service is also going to attempt to perform functions that are only meant for the Public Service Commission. Public Service Commission, under Article 233 of the Constitution, Honorable Speaker. We are not even aware, I'm not even aware, because the bill is silent. Is this office, is this a state office or a public office? It's not even clear here. Because if it were a state office, it will be a different ball altogether, because there's no way you can establish a state office through an ordinary statute and stand to be corrected. You cannot. You cannot. And you cannot establish a public office which can only be done by the Public Service Commission and make it superior to a constitutional office under Article 15 of the Constitution. That is my issue with that particular office. I want to go to the second office. The office of the Chief Administrative Secretary. Honorable Speaker, Article 152 of the Constitution is very clear. It is the article that establishes the cabinet, and the cabinet is clearly composed of the president, the deputy president, the attorney general, and who? And the cabinet secretaries. Okay? I give a specific number of cabinet secretaries. Honorable Speaker, the Constitution goes ahead at Article 155 and establishes the office of the principal secretary. Honorable Speaker, the architecture of the Constitution, if you read it logically, Honorable Speaker, you will see that from the cabinet secretary, the second in line is the principal secretary, with distinct functions. Distinct functions. I want to read for you one of the functions of the principal secretary under Article 155. Article 155 of the Constitution. There is established the office of the principal secretary, which is an office in the public service. Which is an office in the public service. Honorable Speaker, I'm looking for the functions of the cabinet of the principal secretary. Honorable Speaker, 155, yes. 155, no, my eyes are failing me. Okay. Okay, add 155 subarticle 2. Each state department shall be under the administration of a principal secretary. Under the administration of a principal secretary. The Constitution did not contemplate that at some point in time, a House of Parliament would sit and purport to establish another office outside the Constitution, to be somewhere between the Cabinet Secretary and the Principal Secretary. And the Principal Secretary. There is nowhere. The Constitution, the drafters of the Constitution, could not have imagined that at some point in time a parliament would create an office outside the Constitution. Would create an office through a statute, an ordinary statute.
Order. There's a point of order from...
But I am also... I'm also a point of order.
Use the mic.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. May I draw the attention of my minority leader to Article 132, Sub-Article 4 of the Constitution of Kenya, which provides that the President may perform any other executive function provided for in this Constitution or in a national legislation and except as otherwise provided for in this Constitution, may establish an office in the public service in accordance with the recommendations of the Public Service Commission. While he's at it, may he address that particular point? That's the Constitution of Kenya. Thank you.